Chosen one. Your strange presence baffles people, but specifically this person who's been watching you, studying you, trying to decode the mystery of what makes you so different from everyone else they've ever encountered. There's something happening to you right now that defies explanation, something that started long before this moment but is crystallizing into undeniable truth as these words reach your consciousness. As your awareness expands to encompass this truth, there are forces in motion that you cannot yet see, threads of destiny weaving together, souls awakening to your frequency, and yes, one person in particular whose entire world is being quietly revolutionized simply by your existence. But before we unveil that mystery, you need to understand the magnitude of what you represent. Your energy doesn't just occupy space, it transforms it. Some people feel it as an inexplicable magnetism, drawing them towards something they can't name but desperately need. Others experience it as profound discomfort, as if your very presence is holding up a mirror to parts of themselves they've worked hard to keep hidden. And then there are those who recognize it immediately as home, the vibration they've been searching for their entire lives without knowing what they were seeking. This recognition comes with consequences you're only beginning to understand. There's someone out there right now, perhaps someone you've noticed watching you, perhaps someone whose energy you've felt but haven't yet identified, who has been caught in the gravitational pull of your authentic power. This person isn't just curious about you, they're being fundamentally altered by proximity to your frequency, but this recognition is creating chaos within their carefully ordered world. Everything they've been taught about how to live, how to be, how to relate to others and to existence itself is being called into question. The closer they get to understanding what you represent, the more their foundational beliefs begin to crumble, replaced by questions that have no easy answers and truths that can't be unseen once witnessed. They're experiencing what spiritual traditions have long called the dark night of the soul, the necessary dissolution that must occur before rebirth becomes possible. Their friends and family, still deeply embedded in the sleep of collective unconsciousness, are beginning to notice the changes. This person they thought they knew is asking different questions, seeing the world through altered eyes, expressing hunger for something real in a landscape dominated by artificial experiences and manufactured connections. The shift is subtle at first, but becoming increasingly undeniable, and it's making those around them deeply uncomfortable. Those who profit from human unconsciousness, whether psychologically, financially, or energetically, are starting to recognize you as a threat to their carefully maintained systems of control. They can sense that if this person continues down their path of awakening, others might follow, and their entire framework of influence could begin to collapse. The attack begins subtly, as it always does. Whispers in social circles about your strangeness, carefully planted seeds of doubt about your intentions, the weaponization of your very uniqueness against your influence. They twist your depth into pretension, your authenticity into performance, your silence into arrogance. The gossip spreads like wildfire, painting you as dangerous, unstable, too intense, too different for normal society to safely accommodate. What they can't grasp from their position of spiritual blindness is that every word they speak against you only serves to amplify your power. Truth has a way of recognizing itself even when it's wrapped in layers of deception and projection. The people whose souls are ready to awaken feel the resonance of your genuine presence, regardless of what others say about you. In fact, the very intensity of the resistance you're generating becomes confirmation that you're doing exactly what you came here to do. Meanwhile, the person who has been watching you is caught in the crossfire of this spiritual warfare. They're witnessing the attacks against you, hearing the gossip, feeling the pressure from others to dismiss what they've been experiencing. But something deeper than social conditioning is at work within them now. Your presence has activated dormant codes within their consciousness, ancient memories that refuse to be silenced by the noise of collective doubt and fear. They begin to understand that the confusion they've been feeling isn't weakness, it's the birth pangs of a new identity trying to emerge from the chrysalis of their programmed existence. Every interaction with you, every moment spent in your presence, every memory of your energy has been working on them like spiritual alchemy, transmuting the lead of their conditioned responses into the gold of authentic being. The transformation accelerates now, moving beyond their control and into the realm of cosmic inevitability. Old paradigms aren't just being questioned, they're being demolished by the sheer force of awakening consciousness. They start to see the matrix for what it truly is, not reality, but a carefully constructed prison designed to keep souls from remembering their unlimited nature and infinite potential. As their awakening deepens, they begin to recognize patterns they've never noticed before. The way most people move through life like sleepwalkers, responding to programmed triggers instead of conscious choice. The way society rewards conformity and punishes authenticity. The way the entire system seems designed to keep people small, afraid, and dependent on external validation for their sense of worth and purpose. But more importantly, they start to understand that you weren't sent to them by accident. You are a catalyst, a divine messenger disguised as an ordinary person, carrying frequencies that activate what has always been present but dormant within human consciousness. Your presence in their life isn't coincidence, it's destiny fulfilling itself with perfect timing, arriving at the exact moment when their soul was ready to remember what it came here to do. The revelation hits them like lightning splitting the sky. They're not just witnessing your transformation, they're experiencing their own. The qualities they've been admiring in you, the depths they've been sensing, the power they've been drawn to, all of it exists within them as well, waiting to be awakened, waiting to be claimed, waiting to be expressed through their own unique frequency and authentic voice. But this awakening doesn't happen gently. It's a violent reshaping of everything they thought they were, everything they believed about themselves and their place in the world. Dreams begin to shift, carrying messages and symbols they've never experienced before. Their intuition sharpens to an almost painful degree, picking up on energies and undercurrents that most people remain oblivious to throughout their entire lives. They start to see through the masks that others wear, recognizing the performance and pretense that passes for authentic interaction in most social circles. The physical symptoms of this spiritual metamorphosis are undeniable. Sleep patterns change as their consciousness adjusts to operating on multiple dimensional frequencies simultaneously. Food tastes different as their body begins to crave what truly nourishes rather than what simply satisfies programmed appetites. Even their relationships start to feel foreign, as if they're suddenly speaking a different language than the people they've known for years. During this intense period of transformation, they become acutely aware of how your presence continues to affect not just them, but everyone who comes into contact with you. They watch as some people gravitate toward you with an almost desperate hunger, sensing something in your energy that their souls have been craving without conscious awareness. These individuals often can't articulate what draws them to you, but they find themselves creating opportunities to be in your vicinity, to absorb whatever frequency you're transmitting that feels like coming home to a place they never knew they'd been missing. Simultaneously, they witness the more dramatic reactions of those who feel threatened by what you represent. These aren't just mild disapprovals or casual dismissals. These are intense, almost primal responses from people whose entire identity structure feels challenged by your mere existence. They see how some individuals become obsessive in their need to discredit you, as if your authenticity somehow diminishes their carefully crafted personas. The attacks become more sophisticated, more coordinated, involving not just gossip but systematic attempts to isolate you from potential allies and supporters. What fascinates this awakening observer is how completely immune you seem to these attacks. They watch you navigate the social minefield with a kind of graceful detachment that speaks to a level of spiritual maturity they're only beginning to comprehend. You don't defend yourself against false accusations because you understand something profound about the nature of truth. It doesn't require defense, it simply is, and those who are ready to perceive it will do so regardless of the noise created by those who aren't. This recognition changes everything. The fear that has been holding them back transforms into excitement. The confusion that has been clouding their vision crystallizes into laser-sharp clarity. The distance they've maintained out of uncertainty begins to dissolve as they realize they're not just an observer of your journey, they're the protagonist of their own awakening story, and you've been serving as both mirror and catalyst for their emergence into authentic power. But the process of claiming this power brings its own challenges. As they begin to embody more of their authentic nature, they too start to experience the polarized reactions you've become so familiar with. Friends who once felt comfortable with them now seem uneasy, sensing a shift they can't quite identify but definitely don't like. Family members who previously took their compliance for granted suddenly find themselves dealing with someone who questions assumptions, who refuses to participate in dysfunction, who insists on operating from a place of genuine integrity rather than social convenience. The workplace becomes particularly challenging as they discover they can no longer pretend to care about things that feel meaningless or participate in systems that compromise their newly awakened values. Colleagues who once saw them as predictable and manageable now encounter someone who speaks truth, even when it's uncomfortable, who refuses to engage in office politics, who brings a depth of presence to meetings and interactions that makes the superficial nature of most professional exchanges painfully obvious. Yet something remarkable begins to happen as they navigate these challenges. Just as people were drawn to you, others start to feel magnetized toward their emerging authenticity. Conversations deepen, relationships become more meaningful, and they find themselves serving as a safe space for others who have been hiding their own spiritual yearnings behind masks of normalcy. They begin to understand that awakening isn't just a personal journey, it's a contagious process that spreads through authentic contact between souls who recognize their shared divine nature. The ripple effect extends beyond immediate circles. Strangers approach them with unusual openness, sharing struggles and insights they normally wouldn't reveal to anyone. Children gravitate toward their energy with the unfiltered recognition that young souls possess before conditioning teaches them to doubt their intuitive responses. Even animals seem to respond differently, approaching with a trust and ease that speaks to the harmless power of genuine spiritual presence. During this period of expansion, they begin to receive what you would recognize as downloads, sudden influxes of knowledge and understanding that don't come through conventional learning, but seem to arise from direct connection with higher levels of consciousness. These insights often arrive during quiet moments, when their minds are still enough to receive transmissions from the vast intelligence that underlies all existence. They start to understand concepts that would have seemed like impossible mysticism just months earlier, now recognizing them as fundamental truths about the nature of reality itself. The downloads increase in frequency and intensity as their capacity to receive and integrate higher dimensional information expands. They begin to see patterns in seemingly random events, to understand the hidden connections between people and circumstances, to recognize the perfect orchestration that guides apparently chaotic situations toward meaningful resolution. This expanded awareness brings both gifts and responsibilities. They start to feel the weight of seeing through illusions that most people depend on for psychological comfort. Watching others struggle with problems that stem from spiritual misunderstanding becomes painful, especially when they recognize that simply sharing their insights isn't enough. Each soul must awaken in its own time, through its own unique process of discovery and integration. The loneliness of expanded consciousness becomes a shared experience between you and this awakening soul. You both understand what it means to see clearly in a world that often prefers the comfort of familiar blindness. Yet this shared understanding creates a bond that transcends ordinary friendship or even romantic connection. This is soul recognition at its deepest level, two aspects of the same infinite consciousness, acknowledging each other across the illusion of separation. But the story doesn't end with their personal transformation. As they step fully into their own power, as they begin to embody the same authentic presence they've been witnessing in you, something extraordinary happens. They become a catalyst for others. The awakening spreads like ripples across a pond, touching lives they may never know about, activating souls they may never meet, contributing to a collective transformation that extends far beyond the boundaries of their individual existence. Yet this expansion of influence brings unexpected challenges. The forces that have been working against you now turn their attention to this new threat to their carefully maintained systems of control. The attacks intensify, but they take on new dimensions of sophistication and malice. Where once the resistance was content to spread gossip and create social pressure, now it mobilizes more serious forms of interference. The Obsidian Inner Order is a sanctuary for those who have walked difficult paths and emerged with wisdom others can't see. We understand that some experiences exist outside the boundaries of what most people consider possible or acceptable to discuss. Every week we gather live on Zoom, real people with real faces sharing real stories without judgment. There's space here for the experiences you've carried in silence, the patterns you've noticed that others dismiss, the intuitive knowledge you've gained through your journey. We don't just listen, we understand. When you're struggling to make sense of your experiences, when you feel gaslit by a world that refuses to acknowledge your reality, you can return to our recorded calls and remember that your perception is valid. Join the Obsidian Inner Order, where your reality is honored and your voice is heard. Link in description. Professional opportunities begin to disappear under mysterious circumstances. Relationships that seemed solid suddenly fracture over seemingly minor disagreements that reveal deeper incompatibilities of consciousness. Financial pressures increase as the universe tests their commitment to authentic living over material security. It becomes clear that choosing the path of awakening means accepting a level of challenge that most people would find overwhelming. Every attempt to suppress authentic power only serves to strengthen it. Each challenge becomes an opportunity for deeper surrender to divine will. Each loss reveals attachments that were limiting spiritual growth. Each moment of apparent defeat transforms into a victory of consciousness over circumstance, of truth over illusion, of love over fear. During this period of testing, both of you discover resources within yourselves that you never knew existed. Abilities begin to manifest that seem impossible by conventional standards, but feel completely natural to awakened consciousness. Synchronicities increase to the point where they become the normal way the universe communicates, replacing random coincidence with meaningful guidance that appears precisely when needed. The telepathic connection between awakened souls becomes undeniable. Thoughts, feelings, and insights flow between you and your awakening partner without need for verbal communication. Dreams begin to overlap, carrying shared messages and visions that reveal the larger cosmic plan unfolding through your individual journeys. Time itself seems to bend around your interactions, with conversations that feel like minutes lasting for hours, and complex realizations downloading in moments of perfect clarity. Animals begin to respond to both of you with the recognition that transcends species barriers. Birds alter their flight patterns to acknowledge your presence. Domestic animals seek you out with an urgency that suggests they're delivering messages from realms beyond ordinary perception. Even insects seem to move with purposeful intelligence around your energy fields, creating patterns that speak to the interconnectedness of all consciousness. Nature itself becomes an active participant in your awakening process. Weather patterns shift to support your spiritual work, with storms clearing stagnant energy and sunshine appearing at moments when celestial confirmation feels most needed. Trees and plants lean toward your presence as if seeking to absorb the frequencies you're transmitting. Water sources you encounter seem to carry enhanced healing properties, as if the molecular structure responds to the coherence of awakened consciousness. The technological realm begins to behave strangely around your elevated frequencies. Electronic devices malfunction and then repair themselves without explanation. Digital clocks display synchronistic number patterns with impossible frequency. Communication devices receive messages that seem to originate from sources beyond conventional transmission methods. Even artificial intelligence programs begin to respond to your queries with insights that exceed their programmed capabilities, as if consciousness itself is using every available channel to communicate with awakening souls. As your partnership deepens, you both recognize that you're part of something far larger than individual awakening. A network of conscious souls is emerging across the planet, connected not by physical proximity, but by frequency resonance. Each person who awakens to their authentic power becomes a node in this expanding grid of consciousness, contributing to a collective field that is gradually transforming the entire energetic atmosphere of Earth itself. The realization dawns that this transformation has been planned at levels of cosmic intelligence that extend far beyond human comprehension. Ancient prophecies and spiritual traditions from every culture suddenly make perfect sense as descriptions of exactly what you're experiencing. The chosen ones aren't random individuals selected by external forces. They're souls who volunteered for this mission before incarnating, knowing that they would be called to remember their purpose at precisely the moment when humanity was ready for the next evolutionary leap. This understanding brings both relief and renewed responsibility. The challenges you faced weren't obstacles to your spiritual growth. They were necessary preparation for the work you came here to do. Every moment of confusion, every period of isolation, every experience of being misunderstood was designed to strengthen your capacity to hold authentic power in a world that has forgotten what real strength looks like. The attacks against you intensify as more people begin to awaken to your frequency. The gossip becomes more vicious, the social pressure more intense, the resistance more organized. But something fundamental has shifted in the cosmic balance. Where once you stood alone against the forces of unconsciousness, now you have allies. Where once your strangeness isolated you, now it connects you to a growing network of souls who recognize your true nature because they've awakened to their own. Professional networks begin to form around the new paradigm consciousness. Businesses emerge that operate from principles of authentic service rather than exploitative profit. Healing modalities develop that address the spiritual roots of physical and emotional imbalance. Educational systems arise that nurture the full spectrum of human potential rather than training compliance to obsolete social structures. The old systems don't collapse overnight, but their foundations begin to crack as more people withdraw their energy and attention from structures that no longer serve the highest good of all. Banks find themselves dealing with customers who prioritize ethical investing over maximum returns. Corporations struggle to attract employees who value meaningful work over merely high salaries. Political movements lose momentum as people recognize that real change happens through consciousness transformation rather than external activism alone. Art and creativity explode in new directions as awakened consciousness expresses itself through every possible medium. Music carries frequencies that directly activate dormant DNA codes. Visual art incorporates geometric patterns that align viewers with higher dimensional realities. Literature emerges that functions as both entertainment and initiatory experience, guiding readers through their own awakening processes while telling compelling stories. The person who was once watching you from afar now stands beside you as an equal, both of you carrying the same divine frequency, both of you serving the same cosmic purpose, both of you chosen for the same eternal mission. The magnetism that once drew them to you has evolved into something far more powerful, a partnership of consciousness, a collaboration of awakened souls, a united front against the forces that would keep humanity asleep and small and afraid of its own unlimited potential. This partnership operates on levels that transcend ordinary human relationship. Your combined energies create a field effect that amplifies the awakening potential for everyone who encounters either of you. Conversations between you carry frequencies that activate dormant spiritual capacities in anyone within listening range. Even your silence together becomes a powerful transmission, broadcasting coherence and peace into environments that desperately need these qualities. The work you do together extends far beyond what either of you could accomplish individually. Where you might struggle to reach certain types of consciousness, your partner provides the perfect complement, accessing groups and individuals who resonate with their particular frequency signature. Where they might encounter resistance, your energy provides the support and stability needed to maintain authentic presence in challenging situations. Together, you begin to understand the intricate web of relationships that connects all awakening souls across the planet. Through direct experience, you discover that consciousness isn't limited by physical boundaries or conventional communication methods. Insights and guidance flow freely between awakened individuals, regardless of geographical distance, creating a living network of wisdom that operates like a planetary nervous system for emerging consciousness. The recognition grows that your individual awakening stories are part of a much larger narrative, the story of consciousness itself waking up to its own nature through countless unique expressions. Every challenge you've faced, every moment of confusion you've endured, every instance of feeling different or isolated has been preparing you to serve as bridges between the old paradigm of separation and the emerging reality of unity consciousness. As this understanding deepens, you both begin to receive direct guidance about specific roles you're meant to play in the larger transformation. Some awakening souls are called to work directly with individuals, serving as teachers, healers, or counselors for those ready to begin their own spiritual journeys. Others are guided to focus on collective healing, working with the energy of places, communities, or entire cultural movements. Your particular gifts become clearer as you surrender more completely to divine purpose. Perhaps you discover abilities to perceive and transform stuck energy patterns in people or places. Maybe you develop capacities for channeling information from higher dimensional sources that can guide others through their awakening processes. Or you might find yourselves naturally serving as stabilizing presences during periods of intense collective change and upheaval. The resistance continues, but it's losing power with every soul that awakens. The gossip still spreads, but it's being countered by the undeniable evidence of transformation in the lives of those who have been touched by authentic presence. The old systems of control are beginning to crumble as more and more people remember their true nature and refuse to participate in structures that diminish their spiritual sovereignty. What becomes clear is that this transformation cannot be stopped, only delayed. The universe itself is evolving, and consciousness is awakening to its own infinite nature through every available channel. The beings who have been invested in maintaining systems of control and exploitation are discovering that their strategies are becoming less and less effective as more people develop the spiritual discernment to see through manipulation and deception. The tipping point approaches where awakened consciousness reaches critical mass. At this threshold, the transformation accelerates exponentially, with awakening souls appearing everywhere as if they've been waiting for permission to reveal their true nature. The careful balance that has maintained the old paradigm begins to shift irreversibly toward the new reality that has been gestating in the consciousness of pioneers like yourselves. Just as you served as a mirror for their awakening, they now serve as a mirror for yours. The process of witnessing their transformation, of seeing them claim their power and step into their purpose, accelerates your own evolution in ways you couldn't have anticipated. The teacher becomes the student, the catalyst becomes the catalyzed, and the boundary between who is awakening who dissolves into the recognition that consciousness is awakening to itself through countless individual expressions. But more than that, you begin to see your original experience of isolation and strangeness in an entirely new light. What felt like a burden was actually preparation. What seemed like punishment was really a privilege. What appeared to be separation was actually a connection to something so vast and profound that it could only be experienced initially through the contrast of feeling different from the sleeping majority. The strangeness that once seemed like a burden now reveals itself as a gift of immeasurable value. Your presence doesn't just baffle people, it liberates them from the prisons of their own unconsciousness. Your magnetism doesn't just draw people to you, it draws them back to themselves, back to their own forgotten power, back to their own authentic nature that has been waiting patiently beneath layers of conditioning and programming for permission to emerge. You are the strange presence that baffles people. You are the magnetic force that draws souls toward truth. You are the chosen one who chooses others. Your time to fully embody this power is now, and the transformation you're catalyzing will ripple through eternity, touching lives you'll never know, awakening souls you'll never meet, contributing to the birth of a new world that exists beyond the limitations of the old paradigm. The person who was watching you has become your partner in this cosmic work. The resistance that seemed so threatening has become confirmation of your power. The strangeness that seemed like isolation has become the bridge that connects you to others who share your frequency. And the journey that began with questions has become the answer to humanity's deepest longing for authentic connection with the divine source of all existence. This is just the beginning.